The climate is changing, and so are we. Worried about rampant wildfires, biodiversity collapse, more intense storms? Well, don't. Haze Oil Inc. is now a carbon capture company, and we are committing to capturing our carbon. Our scientists are hard at work making sure that you can keep driving your giant SUV guilt-free. How? By making big-ass vacuums that suck up all our emissions while we're still making them. Carbon captured. But how does it all work? I'm so glad you asked. Remember baking soda volcanoes? Of course you do. You went to public school. Now let's pretend that this volcano is our all-American clean oil power plant. And, ooh, look at that. Stimulating the economy, creating jobs. But maybe it is a little messy. You're right. Our patented, innovative carbon capture solution is going to capture all of that carbon. Well, most of it. Well, some of it. Well, innovation, sequestration, science, drawdown. Because f you. You don't know what any of these words mean. No need to worry about that pesky climate change anymore. Carbon capture. We're Haze Oil, and we got this. Dang. First season and this show is already obsolete. All right, wrap it up, everyone. Wait, that was a joke. A joke in the comedy show. Hello? Guys? Welcome to Unf***ing the Planet. According to my research, when you hear carbon capture, you're probably thinking about capturing all the carbon pollution that our stupid ancestors spewed into the sky. You know, with like a giant vacuum or something. Based on a very scientific survey of my own audience, a bunch of amateur climate nerds, that's what most people think. So it's likely that when you hear about, say, Chevron doing a carbon capture, you think, oh, why? I thought they were evil, but finally, oil companies doing something right for a change. They're cleaning up the air we breathe. They're eco-warriors now. But let's, clear the air. Wait, no, I'm sorry. Let's, clear things up. By definition, carbon capture, or more accurately, point source carbon capture, doesn't reduce the amount of carbon that's already in the air, but rather it tries to reduce the amount of carbon being pumped out of industrial plants. Like, for example, say, a coal plant. And in the news media and fossil fuel press releases, this gets lumped in with technology that actually is cleaning the carbon out of our atmosphere, more accurately called carbon dioxide removal, or CDR. And this mix-up isn't just confusing, it's also great PR. So don't worry, we'll get into carbon removal and whether or not it'll save our asses, but first let's talk about what carbon capture actually is. The argument for carbon capture is this. Okay, even if everyone goes vegan, quits cutting down trees, and we figure out fusion energy like tomorrow, humans will always keep cranking out some amount of carbon. And yeah, that sounds nice. Decarbonize everything we can, and carbon capture our way out of the rest. But is that how carbon capture is being used? No! Because the main group pushing for carbon capture is, well... Folks, we have to face it. The tide of public opinion is turning and we can't keep spewing carbon emissions forever. Even we have to live on this planet, at least until Elon Musk's Mars colony is ready. So, ideas. Shut down new oil exploration and lead the transition to clean energy. All right, good one, guys. Take full responsibility for our emissions and create a realistic framework for reduction of carbon. All right, who put this one in here? I'm not gonna be mad. Next, can keep doing what we're doing and make the government pay us to clean up our own shit. Now we're talking. All right. All in favor? Great, let's break for lunch. Angela, we're having the vegan option today, so have Kyle and the boys get out there and hunt us up some vegans. Sure, fossil fuel companies are funding some carbon capture with their own money, but much more so they are lobbying the government for subsidies to clean up their carbon mess while they're still making it. Those same companies that are already getting a metric ton of fossil fuel subsidies. In fact, carbon capture was, I'm not kidding, invented for, this is real, digging up, stick with me here, more oil to burn, which creates more carbon. Yes, carbon capture started its life as enhanced oil recovery in the 70s. Here's how it worked. First, oil companies suck as much oil as they can from a well. And while they do that, they store the CO2 that gets created in the process. Then, once that oil well is tapped out, they push the CO2 to the oil well to help dislodge that last little bit of Texas tea. It's not a perfect metaphor. But surely now, in the modern era, we know better than to just use carbon capture as fossil fuel enablers, right? Well, there's a teleprompter right in front of me here that says otherwise. As it turns out, over 70% of carbon capture projects globally are used for more oil extractions in the year of our Lord, 2023. But the tragic reality is that if that carbon dioxide doesn't get sold for advanced oil recovery, the economics of carbon capture doesn't really make sense. Fossil fuel carbon capture basically needs its own fossil fuel power plants just to run. And every single fossil-fueled point source carbon capture project has been vastly over budget and underperforming. Every single time. Remember clean coal? A ploy so obvious and a failure so spectacular that making fun of it at this point just feels like punching down, and I don't see Dave Chappelle around here anywhere. That's point source. Clean coal is just coal with point source carbon capture. So, does fossil fuel carbon capture work economically? No. But does it work technically? No! We spent decades listening to promises about clean coal and zero-emission fossil fuels, and yet, like the world's drunkest Robin Hood, point source carbon capture has confidently missed every single target. For example, Chevron's $3 billion Gorgon project in Australia, one of the biggest carbon capture projects in the world. They promised to capture 80% of a natural gas plant's carbon emissions, and they managed to capture only 30% of that goal, which is less. Carbon capture has been such a colossal bust for reducing emissions that the city of New Orleans retaliated by banning carbon capture, resolving that, quote, the technologies often act to enable, not diminish, carbon emissions. Ouch. Not only have fossil fuel companies used these absolutely tragic attempts at carbon capture to capture money that might have otherwise gone to building some f***ing buses or solar panels or something, but also to greenwash their way into calling themselves not oil companies. We're a solutions company, not energy companies. We're a Get America Back to Work company. We're a carbon management company. Now get out of our f***ing face. This obviously sucks, but as much as I love to be a hater, and I love to be a hater.
Yo, I hate this so much. Me and parking lots have a blood feud. I can't with kids these days.
Go f*** yourself. We'll even need point source carbon capture. No, not for coal and enhanced oil recovery. That's stupid. But until we're able to electrify crucial industries like steel, cement, and transportation, we're going to need point source capture. There are actually some amazing companies working on that right now, and I'm sure they're very tired of getting lumped in with these fossil fuel clowns. My heart goes out to you. But this show is called Un***ing the Planet, not f***ing up the planet, but slightly slower. So let's get back to carbon removal, or cleaning carbon out of the air. The head honchos of climate, the IPCC themselves, have said that just decarbonization is not enough. Massive scale carbon dioxide removal is now necessary to keep the planet to a cool, livable, non-apocalyptic 1.5 degrees C. So, remember the giant vacuum that sends the carbon into space?
Hazel, that's not a thing.
There are no bad ideas.
That's a bad idea.
Fine, but if I was an oil company, you'd be shoveling cash at Project Spacevac.
Fair.
All right, before we move on to the non-hater portion of the video, a quick recap. Point source capture is scrubbing out some of the carbon, and carbon removal is sucking carbon out of the atmosphere. Scrub, suck. Scrub, suck. Settle down. Carbon removal, compared to point source capture, is brand spanking new. These technologies are scaling up way faster than expected, and yet still experts describe the current stage of development as desperately throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks before we're all f***ed. And despite all these promising, yet slightly insane sounding projects, Carbon removal has gotten a lot less funding than carbon capture because, well, where's the profit motive in cleaning the air we breathe? That means it's time to play. How you gonna pay for that? For $100 billion, how do you fund a new technology with little to no profit motive, diffuse economic value, huge upfront startup costs, needs to be spread over a large diverse portfolio, and we need it tomorrow? Answer now on your devices. If you said advanced market commitments for carbon removal, you'd be right. If you said, what the f is an advanced market commitment, you'd be right. An advanced market commitment, or AMC, is when the government promises to buy a ton of a product before it has even been invented. But has this ever been done before? And that means it's time for Name That AMC President. Name the president that oversaw a huge advanced market commitment healthcare project to the tune of tens of billions of dollars and tens of millions of lives saved. And if you said, if you said, hold on, is that, if you said Trump, which you almost definitely didn't, you're right. It's complicated, but it happened, and he was technically the president. It was COVID vaccines. During Project Warp Speed, the government, yes, under Trump, made a promise to buy a huge amount of vaccines up front as long as they worked. And sure, it's got some problems, but it worked. We got a vaccine within a year, and those vaccines went into billions of arms over the next few years. And those vaccines also rescued the economy from the ravages of the COVID pandemic, making them well worth the cost. This is exactly what needs to happen with carbon removal right now. We don't know how to remove the carbon, just like we didn't know how to make a COVID vaccine. We just know we need it fast. And the Uncle Sams of the world aren't the only ones in the market for carbon removal. With every company in the world wanting that sweet, sweet net zero label, but not actually wanting to reduce their emissions, they'll get there by paying someone else to offset their carbon with climate-friendly projects like promising to plant trees and promising not to cut down trees. These offsets are infamously often complete bullshit. So instead of just paying a guy to be like, yeah, definitely, we'll plant some trees, with carbon removal, you could pay someone to actually clean up your shit. But you may say, it's just way too expensive to ever be viable. I remember another little technology that was supposed to save the world and that everybody said was too expensive and unreliable and terrible for the economy. Solar panels. Check out this price curve for solar panels. Ooh, curvy. It got way cheaper once people started taking it seriously, funding it, and scaling it up. To scale up, they need more government support. You know, the kind they've been showering fossil fuel companies in for decades. Money gun style. Because even in the best case scenarios, we've been f***ing around way too long, and if we don't do carbon removal, we're about to find out.
Game over.
It's gonna take a ton of work to get where we need to be, but imagine, just imagine. Welcome to 2050. I know what you're thinking. Yes, I've had a lot of work done, but look at the work we've done. We've somehow turned back the carbon tide and life on Earth continues. And how did we do it? With this. And this. We had to do this. Oh, and this was expensive, but worth it. We did this and this. And the result? Well, my friends, look outside and you'll see a planet. Well, it still kind of sucks out there, but it only sucks slightly more than it did back in 2023. We can live here, and we still do. Well, except the Hazel Corporation. They and all the Elon people left for Mars about 10 years ago, which was actually pretty impressive. I mean, they ended up making it almost halfway. Won't that be nice? But like I said, keeping this place livable won't be cheap. Current estimates say we may need up to $100 billion to purge all that carbon from our atmosphere. So with a bill that high, you can take your pick. Call your representatives, get politically active, or we'll have to find the funds elsewhere. Wow, what a great hour of programming. Now, if you'd like to continue living in an environment that can support human life, well, we're gonna need your support. So, pick up that phone and dial the number on your screen. Oh, and here's one now. Kip from Santa Monica has pledged $10 to our carbon removal efforts. Thank you, Kip. That means we're only $99,999,999,990 away from our goal. Wow, a very generous donation. Jeannie from Valley Village has pledged $100. That's enough to get her this very attractive, no-carbon mouse pad. Super. Well, looking at our tote board, we only have 99,999,999,000. Wow, we sure learned a lot today. If you like what you saw and want to see more, smash that subscribe button, smash that notification button, smash that like button, smash that share button, smash that comment button. Am I missing any? I think that's it.